Hey guys, what's going on? It's your big dreamer and doer, G Dinero, coming to you today with another Financial Freedom Friday. It's Friday. So today we're going to talk about how MicroStrategy or strategy gets to $900 a share.
Mufasa, you know we finally here, right?
Well,
It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday, what? It's Friday again, it's Saturday, Sunday. Hey, 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 Let's go! Let's go! What? 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 Hey! 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 No, you did!
But first, remember, none of this is tax, legal, financial, investment advice. It's your buddy G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. And a special thank you goes out to Quiet Bull 61, who said that MicroStrategy money printer video was a game changer. It took the fear out of assignment and made everything click. Before that, I was just holding my MicroStrategy shares doing nothing. After watching it, I took your options course and it's already helping me make steady income even while MicroStrategy is down. Make steady income even while MicroStrategy is down. I hope you got that part. It also gave me the confidence to buy calls on other stocks and finally understand the Greeks by been following your rules, and so far it's going great. Hope you drop more videos like that one. It was a real eye-opener. Quiet Bull, this one's for you, buddy. This is another video like that one of how to think about this outside the box just a little bit. And before we jump in, remember guys, with the community, the Premier phase is here. Premier members get $25 off the community membership, members only videos. You just get a lot that are behind the scenes. Things that I don't put out in public, those are shared privately. Folks in that group are already making anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 a month trading options. Most of them are doing covered calls, and that's where they're generating that kind of income. Guys, that replaces virtually 80-90% of the salaries that are out there if you're making that kind of money every single month. It's over $100,000. Get bordering on $200,000 with those that are making $15,000 a month. Join the community over at gdinerocoaching.com/premier, and the premier rate is $125 a month. Again, that's $25 off the normal pricing. So let's dig in. Here's what inspired me to do this. It was Grain of Salt, who's Z06, Z07. Yes, he must be a Corvette guy, right? Z06, Z07 over there on X. Grain, who I actually am friends with, he came out with this graph and said, instead of thinking about MicroStrategy and worrying about the dilution, the dilution of the shares, he said we should be more focused on how many shares per Bitcoin it takes, okay? So it's not just the amount of Bitcoin they're holding or the sats per share. He flipped it on its head and he said, what if we looked at it instead in terms of shares per Bitcoin? So as you can see here with his graph that he shared on X, he said, starting in 2020, the first year that MicroStrategy started their Bitcoin strategy, pun intended, they held just over 70,000 Bitcoin, had about 124 million shares outstanding, which amounted to 1,767 shares per Bitcoin. By 2021, they had 124,000 Bitcoin. They had increased the share count to 149 million, 1,200 shares per Bitcoin by 2022. 2022, they didn't buy that much more because 2022 was a bear market, but they still added about 8,000 Bitcoin. by only diluting the share count by about 7 million shares. And that lowered the shares per Bitcoin just slightly to 1178. By 2023, they started to ramp things up again, 189,000 Bitcoin, 207 million shares, 1,098 shares per Bitcoin. 2024 was the pivotal moment. You guys will remember they did their 40/40 plan and they turned around and started really issuing shares when the NAV premium was through the roof. The NAV premium was up in the 3 to 4 range at times, spent a lot of time above 2, and it got up to 3 to 4. MNAV is the multiple to NAV, basically how many multiples above the net asset value of the Bitcoin sitting on their balance sheet that the share price is trading for. So if they have $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, and the company is trading for $4 billion, that's a 4M NAV, 4x the value of the Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Okay, that's simple math. It wasn't $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. They had far greater than that. So by 2024, they now had 447, almost 448,000 Bitcoin. They had diluted the share count pretty handsomely, right? About almost 40% dilution from 208 million up to 281, almost 282 million shares. But the shares per Bitcoin dropped dramatically down to 630. And then finally last year in 2025, with the release of the preferreds and using that in combination with the common stock ATM, they now held 672,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year and had a diluted share count of 343 million shares, and shares per Bitcoin had dropped to 511. So I'm going to just focus here on this graph for a moment, going from 2020 to 2025. From 2020 to 2025, they almost 10x'd the amount of Bitcoin they were holding on their balance sheet. Okay, this is just simple math, guys. They almost 10x'd the amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet from 70 to 672,000. If they had gotten to 700,000, that would have been a perfect 10x, okay? So just shy of it. We'll call it 9.5x. The share count diluted from 124 to 343 million. That's almost a triple, okay? I hope you see where I'm going with this. So a triple would have been around 370 million shares. So they almost 10x their Bitcoin bag by almost tripling their share count. How in the world is that dilution? It's not. The shares went from 1,800 almost for one Bitcoin down to 511. You need far less shares so that once the Bitcoin price really starts moving, I'm not talking about going to 125,000. I'm talking $250,000, $500,000, $1 million per Bitcoin, which I firmly believe will happen in my lifetime. Guys, I can't even imagine what MicroStrategy will be worth, but we can talk about what it might be worth over the next few years. So I created what I called a what if calculator, And I put in there, you'll notice I just put in the exact numbers from over there on Grain of Salt's graph, but I created my own line down there in 2026 and put a question mark, okay? And I said, what if with 2022 being the worst year for them to increase their Bitcoin count, they increased their share count by 4.6%, and the Bitcoin held by 6.5%. And with 2024 being their best year ever over its strategy, increasing the share count by only 36% roughly, the Bitcoin held went up 137%. That's called yield. That's where the yield comes from. What if they increased the share count by only 10% and the Bitcoin held by only 20%? Notice this is insanely conservative in my opinion, guys. I'm not saying they came anywhere close to their best every year. I'm saying it was kind of more like their worst year. They increased the share count by only 10%, but the Bitcoin held increased by 20%. And you have to take into account they now have preferred shares as well. So they don't have to hammer the common stock as much. In fact, STRC has been trading at 100 or higher for the last few days in a row, guys, at the time that this is being made. STRC is one of their prefers that pays an 11% dividend right now, 11%. And that drew in a bunch of new capital, drove the price up. And as soon as it's up there at 100, Michael Saylor and the gang can hammer the STRC ATM and take that money and put it straight into Bitcoin and put it straight on the balance sheet without selling a single share of MicroStrategy. That's 0 share dilution, but increasing the Bitcoin held count. Okay, so I hope that part makes sense to you. I didn't even run some of those numbers. I'm assuming they're going to increase the common share of stock at least somewhat, because if I ran those other numbers, it'd blow your mind, okay? And you probably say, yeah, I don't believe that can happen. I do, but you probably say it wouldn't happen. So 2026, if they increase the share count by 10% and the Bitcoin held by 20%, the amount of Bitcoin they would hold by the end of this year, 2026, would be about 807,000 Bitcoin, up from 672 at the end of last year. The diluted share count would go from 343 million, almost 344 million, up to 378 million shares. The Bitcoin per share would increase from 0.00196 to 0.00213. Sats per share then is 213,000 instead of 195,000. And shares per Bitcoin goes from 511 down to 468. So you would only need to own 468 shares of MicroStrategy to hold 1 Bitcoin, to equal 1 Bitcoin. All right. What if part 2? What if they increase the share count by 10%, same as the slide before, but the Bitcoin held by 25%, not just 25%. Again, because they can sell preferred shares versus common shares, and I did my little winky guy there. Well, now they go from 672,000 Bitcoin to 840, almost 841,000 Bitcoin. The share count goes from 344 million to 378 million. Sats per share, or BTC per share, jumps to 0.00222, or 222,000 sats per share. And the shares per Bitcoin drops from 511 down to 450. That number you want to see going down. That's the number that you need to stay focused on, is how many shares do you need to own to equal 1 Bitcoin? And in this particular case, it's 450, right? If these conditions are met. What do I believe is likely to happen? I'm making the following assumptions. I know what assumptions do. They make one out of you and me, right? So first, the share count will likely go up some. I don't think it's going to go up that much, because I think he's going to hammer the snot out of the preferreds this year. That's where I think the money's going to come from. Number 2, the Bitcoin held will likely go up, and it's going to go up faster than the share count, which equals accretion. That's what the accretion is. That's what yield is, right? They don't have to issue as many shares of the common stock, but yet the Bitcoin held goes up even faster. That's accretion. You're getting more sats per share, or simply put, it takes less shares to equal 1 Bitcoin. I like that metric. So Z06, Z07, my buddy Grain of Salt, thank you for coming out with that. Sats per share will go up. Shares per Bitcoin will go down. That's what I just said. Bitcoin price will go up over the next several years, I believe. MNAV is currently very low. It's like at 0.082. At the time that's when I made these slides. At the time I'm making this, it might be 0.85, 0.9, but it's still trading at a discount to the to the net asset value. I believe MNAV will go up at least to 1.0. I think it's going to go way higher. But again, when I sandbag, I mean, I just sandbag like a champ. Like I threw out the bags, like we're getting dry. I threw the anchor. Let's put it that way. I'm dragging anchor right now. Thus, the share price will likely go up, especially because the more BTC that's held, the higher the Bitcoin price and the higher the MNAV, and finally, the less shares that are issued. That's why I think share price will go up. And when it starts going up, it'll go up relatively quickly. Which means what? Every 575 shares that you own will equal 1 Bitcoin a year from now. Okay? That's at a minimum. MNAV will be 1.0 or higher. Bitcoin will be $150,000 or higher. Thus, MicroStrategy will be $316 a share, or about a 2x from here. I had the current price at around 160 when I made these slides. I think today it's trading at like 165 or something like that, maybe 169. But realize at the time I made the slides, it was trading around 160. If it's at 170 today, then it's just under a 2x from here. But what if they over deliver, right? Remember I said those are sandbag numbers that I just gave you. That's assuming that they only go to an MNAV of 1.0, that they only issue a few more shares, because 475, remember, was on the barely issuing more shares and barely buying more Bitcoin side of things. What if they over deliver? So if they over deliver this year and they acquire more Bitcoin with less share dilution, how do you do that? Quick quiz. That's right. You issue more preferreds. You take that money and you go buy more Bitcoin without issuing any more common shares of stock. That is accretion. That's how you buy more Bitcoin without diluting the shares. Every 425 shares you own now will equal 1 Bitcoin a year from now. Again, this is the more aggressive side of things. Less share dilution, more BTC purchasing. So they hold more BTC by the end of the year and have barely increased the share count. MNAV will be at 1.5 or higher. I think the MNAV will come back, guys. It's a lot of the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt around strategy or MicroStrategy will go away. Michael Saylor will be vindicated. Bitcoin will be $150,000 or higher. Yes, that's what I believe it'll be this year. At some point during 2026, Bitcoin's going to go over $150,000, in my opinion. Thus, MicroStrategy will be $530 a share, or a 3.3x from here, over the current price of around 160 in a year. I'll take it all day, every day, twice on Sundays. All right. So guys, that to me is doable. It's in the realm. It's a stretch. It's the stretch goal, right? We have to have Saylor and strategy behave for this to happen, because they need to be able to acquire a lot of Bitcoin without issuing more shares of common stock, or not very many. Belief has to come back in MicroStrategy, which is what causes MNAV to go up. Really, it's a sentiment indicator more so than anything. Are people willing to pay a 50% premium to the amount of Bitcoin that they have on the balance sheet, believing where they could be by the end of the year? If they're willing to pay that premium, then the MNAV rises. If they're not willing to pay the premium and they want to take a discount instead, the MNAV goes below 1. It's that simple. And Bitcoin going to 150,000 or higher, again, I believe in it. We'll see. What are the risks? I built in a ton of assumptions into this thing, guys. You have to. When you're building models, you have to sit there and assign some probabilities and build assumptions in. But you notice I justified each and every single one of them. I said, I don't believe they're going to issue more shares because they have the preferreds. I think they're going to hammer the heck out of the preferreds. Why? Because STRC is sitting right at par value, and it's just tending to stay right there. I thought that if they started hammering the ATM, it would drop. It's not. So that's how they're going to be able to acquire more Bitcoin without increasing the share count, which turns around and increases the sats per share and lowers the number of shares required for 1 Bitcoin. Okay, so there's a lot of assumptions in there about share dilution, BTC acquired, BTC price, appreciation, MNAV, etc. No model is perfect. Every model is broken. We know that. And I still look at Bitcoin as an asymmetrical bet with more upside gain than downside risk. And finally, MNAV bottomed at 0.72 during the 2022 bear. We're at 0.82 right now. It got as low as 0.78 to 0.8 over the last couple of weeks. So if we believe that that is close to or at the bottom, that means that MicroStrategy is close to or at a bottom. If Bitcoin drops down to $70,000, is MicroStrategy going to stay where it's at? No, it's going to drop as well. And I've talked in other videos, I really think that around 125 would be the bottom for MicroStrategy. Even with Bitcoin dropping down into that $60,000 to $70,000 range, excuse me, $60,000 to $70,000 range, MicroStrategy 125 would be relatively the floor. Guys, if you want to see more content like this, make sure you smash that like button. Give me some comments below. What did you like best? What would you like to see more of? Challenge me. Are there things that I said that you don't believe, that you think are super far-fetched? Was I out of line? Was I too conservative? Or was I not conservative enough? You tell me. Drop the comments below. Make sure you subscribe so that you see every single video that I'm doing and others like me. Also, make sure you book a course. I teach a course on TradingView and technical analysis, as well as one on understanding options. The feedback that I've gotten from the courses, guys, is through the roof. People learning to trade options within weeks and making thousands of dollars a month in the process. So that to me that's testament that it works. You go to gdinerocoaching.com for that. And remember that the premier phase is here for the community. Jump in, come join the community, guys. We are having fun. I call it the Cool Kids Club. I also call it Investment University. It's like people are coming in there and getting a university degree in investing for $125 a month. I mean, it's $4 a day. Just forego a couple of those Starbucks coffees every month and join the community instead in the future. Oh, and go buy Starbucks stock. No, just kidding. I don't know what Starbucks stock is doing right now. But in the future, you'll be able to buy your own super automatic coffee machine for your house. Yeah, I know they're like $3 or $4 grand a piece, but you'll be able to buy one of those easily with the proceeds from what you make in the community. So forgo the coffee, go to university, join the community. Within 6 to 12 months, go buy yourself a super automatic coffee machine. It tastes better anyway. That's how I make mine every single morning. And finally, guys, I'm G Dinero. I'm here to help you increase your financial literacy, to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have an awesome weekend. Take care.
Yo, G Dinero in the house. Charge up, let's go. G Dinero, coach of the trade, stacking that green. T at Tuesday, money Monday, living the dream. Options popping, Bitcoin rocket, Tesla on fleet. Join the community.